we're live.
We're not live on FFP. You're live on your humble.
Oink, oink, oink.
This is Mark, the bowler hat farmer, here at Food for Thought Radio. We're going to be bringing you up-to-date news on what's happening in the food and farming revolution, which is taking part across the UK. Check us out on our live show on a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on fftradio.com. That's Mark, the bowler hat farmer, here live on Food for Thought Radio.
Hello. Have you heard about the Community Assembly of the British Isles? If you haven't, you should make it over to their website at www.ca-britishisles.com. We'll see you there.
Every day there's a headline, a political debate, or a story that doesn't quite add up. On LSB Film Productions, explore thought of the day videos on trending issues, discussions around law and rights, and conversations that look beyond the surface. Each week, the podcast features interesting people from all walks of life, sharing experiences, perspectives, and stories that don't always make the mainstream conversation. Different viewpoints, real discussions, questions that matter. Search LSB Film Productions on YouTube and decide for yourself.
We've been told to choose life, choose sitting on the sofa, choose mind-numbing game shows, choose watching the world go by while the powers that be spend your money on things you never asked for. But we chose something else. We chose freedom. Freedom together, freedom to dance, freedom to be loud, alive and beautifully human. This summer, choose something real. Choose Sounds Beautiful, the Freedom Festival. Music, people, energy and freedom. Sounds Beautiful. Come feel it. Tickets from soundsbeautiful.uk.
All across the British Isles, something is changing and our communities are coming together and making things happen. Over the last 4 years, the Community Assembly of the British Isles has been bringing people together to listen, to share and to shape a better future for everyone. Join the Community Assembly of the British Isles today and be together for a better future at www.ca-britishisles.com.
Introducing Eco Green Compost, black gold, engineered on a Lincolnshire family farm. Eco Green Compost isn't just dirt, it's a high-performance, 100% peat-free secret weapon for your garden. Our EGC is born from straw, willow and green cover, whilst our science-backed formula locks in carbon and feeds the soul of your soil. Expect incredible blooms and prize-winning veg, all whilst protecting our planet's vital peatlands. Ready to outshine the neighbours? Feed your passion with a professional's choice. Visit ecogreencompost.co.uk and grow the future today.
Clap, clap, wake up your mind. Moo. Fill up your day. Oink, oink. Smart little bites that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio. Here at fftradio.com. Clap, moo, oink. Food for Thought Radio. Here at fftradio.com.
Is that it?
No, we're supposed to get the things right now, and it's not playing. Hang on, where's it gone? Oh, bloody hell, it didn't
So
go.
was it everybody? Good evening and welcome to another exciting show. And we started with adverts, and I didn't know how long they were going to go on for. But I like the compost advert because I make a lot of compost. And sometimes people say I do verbal compost as well. So there we go. Now, tonight we got two guests, and it's I want to call you not only the cheese ambassador for Wisconsin, but also the producer as well, I would say. And that is Patrick. So all the way from Wisconsin, the cheese ambassador. And was it last Zulu Outpost, aren't you?
The last Zulu Outpost, yes.
That's right. And so good evening and to Patrick and also Paul English. Good evening, Paul.
Evening, Eric. Evening, Patrick. Hi. I see some people are grumbling about the adverts. You're going to have to get used to that. There's going to be hours of them coming up. Bloody whining buggers already. 3 minutes, first time ever. I couldn't stand it.
Well, I was sitting there thinking, what a bleed, you know. Who's
It's
this?
a 3-minute advertising break. It's quite
Yes.
standard.
Yeah, yes. So they give you time to go another wee and that type of thing. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
tonight's subject is religion. And so it's going to be quite, I think we're going to have quite an interesting discussion. But first of all, I'd like to play a little snippet from, now the sound, before you mention it, is a balls up. Now, I don't know why it's a balls up, but he's speaking very highly pitched like this, and he doesn't normally speak like this. So this is the best recording I could find of a Yuri Brezhnev. He was a Soviet, well, he worked for the Soviet Union, the KGB, and he was an expert on ideological subversion, and he actually legged it to the West in 1970. And this is an interview or a talk that he did in the 1980s. And it's just a little snippet. It's about a minute or two. But please excuse the sound. The sound is crap. So I just put this on, see how it goes. And here we go. I'll just share this. And bingo.
Something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it. A Soviet scientist, Shafarevich, who has nothing to do with religion, is a computer scientist, did a very intensive research on the history of socialist countries. He calls socialist or communist any country with a centralized economy and a pyramidal style of power structure. And he discovered, actually he didn't discover it, he just brought to attention of his readers, that civilizations like Mohenjo-Daro in the river Indus area, like Egypt, like Maya, Incas, like Babylon, but equality, by bringing back the society to religion, something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it. A Soviet scientist, Shafarevich, who has nothing to do with religion, is a computer
Sorry
scientist.
about that, folks. I pressed the wrong button.
Did a very intensive research on the history of socialist countries. He calls socialist or communist any country with a centralized economy and a pyramidal style of power structure. And he discovered, actually he didn't discover it, he just brought to attention of his readers, that civilizations like Mohenjo-Daro in the river Indus area, like Egypt, like Maya, Incas, like Babylonian culture, collapsed and disappeared from the surface of Earth. The moment they lost religion, as simple as that, they disintegrated. Nobody remembers about them anymore. By bringing back.
Hang on.
Balls up.
Balls up. Right. That's it. I got rid of him.
Him.
Now,
when you started playing that, I thought it was a little old lady from Top Nest.
That day, I know, but he actually he had a very, very, shall we say, someone that kicked him in the ghoulies just before he started speaking.
He had very tight underpants on that day. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that was in the 80s when that Fleers were out in the 80s. That was the 70s when they used to have tight trousers, you know, because that was the old joke, wasn't it, about what was his name? That bloke, the singer. What was it? Jones.
Tom Jones.
Tom Jones. Thanks, mate. Tom Jones.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was just
3
listening
tights
to him
of
yesterday.
tight,
Yeah.
very tight, and good morning to your honour. That was an old joke. That was one of my uncle's jokes. Anyway, now, anybody want to remark on that? Where we lose religion, we lose our civilization. So who wants to start first?
Socialism. And that's part of the problem with socialism, because it never benefits the majority of the people, because it's always at the cost of the majority of the people and whatever religion they practice, when it's introduced, the socialism then forces them not to be able to criticize others' religions, which in turn makes it taboo, and then it makes it impossible to defend one's own religion because you have to be able to point out the faults in another system that's alien to the culture, and that's the problem with socialism. You forcing integration of peoples that otherwise don't get along when they should just be separate and do their conversions through other means other than, trying to make everybody, play by the same level playing field and this kind of thing. It sounds right, it sounds good and everything, the equality, the whole Freemasonic thing of equality and egalitarianism and all that, and brotherhood. And it's like, well, we're not all brothers if we believe in completely different moral codes. So
I agree with you.
That's my thought on that.
I mean, I could not be a Kalahari. I have the greatest respect for Kalahari Bushmen, but I could not be a Kalahari Bushman because I wouldn't last 3 minutes there, because they are, through generations, they've adapted to that sort of area.
Where are they? Where's Kalahari? Is that Africa?
Africa, yeah. And they're incredible. They're very small, shortish people, very slim, and they actually, where they hunt, they actually drive an animal to exhaustion. They outrun it. They just keep on and chasing it all the time.
That's like the Indians used to do here.
Yeah.
They used to go out with a knife and they'd just stalk deer until the deer gave up, because the deer apparently don't have a very good endurance.
Well, apparently what they did as a documentary years ago, where they got some Olympic runners, real sort of fit people, and they took them over. And they spent a day with the Kalahari Bushmen, and within about 10 minutes, they're on the floor exhausted. And the Kalahari Bushmen are just warming up, just limbering up a bit, thinking, what the bloody hell?
It's like trying to run a marathon without any training.
That's right. I mean, they go half the morning without drinking anything, and these poor sods are Now, Sam says here, the dispersion of property in land and means of production among the greatest possible number of individuals, and the encouragement of free cooperative enterprise and self-government. Aldous Huxley. Interesting. But now, Paul, what do you think about what Yuri Bezmenov said in a very high voice? And I think, what was it now? I think it was Alice Caldwell, chipmunks or helium. I think both.
Ghoulies.
Pinky and Perky. Who remembers Pinky and Perky? Remember Pinky? Bloody hell.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of pigs used to sing. Ding, 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 ding.
I haven't listened to that interview in donkey's years. I mean, it's been around. When did it come out? Was it the early 90s or something? Or maybe even the late 80s?
Yeah.
Well,
I was aware of it.
It's a brilliant interview. It really is. We probably need to dust it off and get it aired every now and again, because it's fantastic. I think, if that's what they found, that's what they found. And of course, there's going to be a power vacuum. I mean, if you look at the history of communism, what does it do? It destroys religious orders. That's the first thing it goes for.
Well, that's right.
Doesn't it?
If you go to North
Every
Korea,
single time.
you're actually searched to see if you've got a Bible on you. If you've got a Bible or any religious text, you're either given the order of the boot, arrested, or shot. No, I wouldn't think they're shot. But for tourists, no, you've got to sign that you have not got any religious material on you, such as a Bible.
Yeah.
Or the Quran.
Well, I think irrespective of whatever you may view about, I've got all my sorts of views, and they move on and all that kind of stuff. But the obvious, one of the obvious reasons I suspect why they do it is it's difficult to dictate to a people who've got a conviction in a high authority than the Politburo.
Yeah.
You can't get their attention, can you? So, whatever we may say about the actual form of so-called religions, and there's a lot to be said. It's not all good, of course. All these organizations start off with great intentions, then they get challenges and they have to deal with them and whatever. And like I've said, there's good and bad people in all institutions, including religious hierarchies. And unfortunately, I think the bad tends to sort of float to the top. But for the man in the street, as it were, for the peasant, well, that's what we are, having some connection with sort of higher levels of thought or convictions about improving your behavior or being a little ant in the sight of God is not such a bad thing. But it works really badly if you're building a Politburo, because they will not listen to you. And you only have to look at what happened in Russia with the so-called Russian Revolution. Of course, it wasn't Russian at all. It was
the unmentionables.
It was the unmentionables. It was the unmentionable revolution. And so a bad case of unmentionableitis crept in. Even to this day, people still call it the Russian
Bolshevikitis.
Yeah,
that's it, Bolshevikitis. Yeah.
And, the first thing they did was, it resulted in the death of 66 million white Christian Russian people.
Yeah.
That's huge. And it's never talked about. It was over a 30-year period from about, 1920 to 1950. When did Stalin die? 52 or something?
53.
So, yeah, they just couldn't stop. And it's because people go rabid in the absence of some moral and guiding order. So, you could say it's not a great solution. Is it the least worst solution? Well, it's better than that in parts. But I can understand why Politburo Bolsheviks destroyed people from their point of view. It's horrific. It's wrong. It's evil. And it shouldn't be done. And there's always ways to affect things that you don't like. But, when you take it away, it just resulted, in that case, in rivers of blood, literally. Because, they were going to create this great commie utopia, which is another,
it's bullshit.
Lies.
It will never. It is total bullshit. And, I had a girlfriend who was anthropologist. And she said that tribes that have a hierarchy are generally... Oh, by the way, Paul, your sound is quiet. Apparently, let's have a look. See what
it is. It is a bit quiet even on our end.
Hang on. Let's have a look. Yeah, let's see what I can do.
I'm sorry for being quiet. I like to be as noisy as I possibly can.
Yes. Let's see if I can do something.
Look at my old volume. I'm up to top whack here. Oh, actually, just a minute. I think I know what's going on.
Can I do something?
It's my end. It's something to do with my end.
Something up his end, is there?
There's something to do. I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah. This thing keeps happening all the time. Well, not all the time, but too often. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Dum-dum. I bet. Found it. Hello. Now I'm there at full whack.
Yes. We got you now. Sorry about that. So, there's a comedian called Ted Ray, and he was having a break, and they all had their sandwiches all laid out, in between when they was doing their comedy sketches, because it was a recorded sort of thing. And someone shouts out, "Any sandwiches up your end, Ted?" And he says, "I hope not. It'd be very uncomfortable."
Boom, boom.
Boom, boom. Now, Pink Planet says, where is it now? Oh, bleed now. It won't show it's doing. Rumble's doing its usual. We're going to have to change feeds with it. It's not showing the chat. But Pink Planet says, Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer. Yeah, I know the dog. I've seen him. Sort of, get down, Rover. Get off my leg. Whisperer says humans are the only species who does not have a stable leader. That's interesting. And Alice Gorgeous says, I have an issue with religions dominating and or being pandered to. Freedom of religion is, however, very important in England. And Mark Anthony says, it's an interesting clip, but it does sound like he's been kicked in the cobblers. That's Yuri Brezhnev, yes. And Regis Getfucked says, the Greens. Yeah, the Green Party, very communist. I'm going to change feeds because the feed is not allowing me to put it's gone funny. So excuse me one moment. Please carry on.
Are you having a funny feed?
I'm having a funny feed.
There's nothing worse, is there?
There's nothing like a funny. Is he being right? Here we go. Now, what will happen? I'll go quiet for a while, and then I go into the next studio. So there we go. Let's end.
And he's gone.
He's gone. He's left us, Patrick. He's left us in the lurch. He's left his own studio. Now he's back.
Now he's back, and
yes,
quality.
I'm going to go another feed. So there we go. But no, that is quite interesting. Every communist thing. I mean, look at socialism and things like that. it all sounds good in theory, but in practice, it's just a complete goes tits up, doesn't it? Really, everything does. But what got me is how long the Soviet Union lasted for. I mean, from 1917 to when the Berlin Wall came down. When was that? 1989,
91.
1991? Yeah, bloody long time. Hell of a long time. Poor sods,
Yep.
you know. And look at
73
Mao's
years.
China. Look at Mao's China. I mean, that was what 1949 till I don't know when that went that went, but that lasted a fair time as well. Because did you know that you couldn't marry who you loved? You had to marry who the committee told you to marry. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, in certain provinces, not all, and yeah, as what's that?
I know that the Han majority had more strict rules and the one-child policy enforcement that they had. And if you were a minority, you didn't have that one-child policy. They actually wanted people to procreate if you were a minority, but if you were the Han majority, they limited you.
Really? That's interesting.
At least that's what I heard. They did have what was called a one-child policy, and that's part of the reason that they say for all the population that they've had, it's probably less than 1 billion, even though they say it's over 1 billion people in China because of that one-child policy.
Well, I worked with a girl whose husband or boyfriend loved traveling, and this was way back must have been the 80s, and she went to China when it was still Red China, and everybody was wearing denim. And she said they were fascinated because there were very few tourists in those days. And she said they were fascinated. Not only she was blonde with her blonde hair, because they don't get many blonde people in China, they do now. But she said they were fascinated that we were wearing non-denim clothes because everybody, men and women, had to wear the same. We had to wear denim, and they were what the state told you to wear. And she said there were some elderly people that had kept clothing from before the revolution, but they were not allowed to wear it. So they kept clothing sort of like hidden away. And they might wear it in their house, but if they're caught wearing the clothing they had before the revolution, then, they get shot or taken away.
Yeah, isn't that part of Mao's great cultural revolution, which is just a label? It's just more spin for we're going to demoralize you.
Well, and he was also educated, I think, was Sidney Rittenberg there was an extension of the Yale University that was set up in China that Mao went to. And Sidney Rittenberg was part of that. He was American.
There was a British guy as well from the same Unmentionables called Green. I've forgotten his first name, was there in the 1930s, laying all the groundwork to sort of pollute the atmosphere. And then they basically betrayed Chiang Kai-shek, who was fighting for the restoration of nationalist China.
That's right.
He was intentionally let down and so got turned over. And it's the usual hand of the Unmentionables in the whole thing. And, same old.
It was that Canadian bloke. I can't remember his name. He died about 10
Maurice
years
Strong.
ago.
Maurice Strong.
Maurice Strong, yeah. He didn't understand what deodorant was, didn't he, Maurice Strong? It's on Maurice Strong. Oh, bleed hell. And he loved China, didn't he? And so did...
he died there, I think, didn't he? And he thought it was the blueprint for the future of the world, but it shows you how stupid certain people can be. And he was profoundly stupid.
Look at Pierre Trudeau. He was very China-friendly as well, wasn't he? Pierre Trudeau.
Yeah.
A Canadian Prime Minister in the 1970s,
60s, early 70s, late 60s.
Yeah.
Yes, not the father of Justin.
Correct.
Right, Castro.
Absolutely not.
Whose wife liked, shall we say, showing
dalliance. Isn't a dalliance a nice word for that? She liked plenty of dalliances, didn't she?
Yes. Yeah, I guess you've seen that photograph with her in a mini skirt.
Yeah, the one with the Rolling Stones.
Yes,
but it is Sunday.
Yes, there's a, shall we say, yes, it was quite a cunning stunt that she had on that that photograph. I think I've covered that quite neatly.
I think you uncovered it appallingly. Yeah, but that's when she's hanging around with Fidel, isn't it? It was obviously his dad.
Oh, crumbs, yeah, Fidel was, yeah. You like father, like son, you know.
Yeah, Justin Castro. Absolutely. Amazing.
But DJ B2 said, there is a good representation of Mao's Cultural Revolution in the first episode of Three Body Problem, Pretty Brutal. They were. Yes.
What's Three Body Problem? Is it a series or something? Is that what it is? I don't know what it is.
Foggiest idea. Don't know what it is.
We haven't a clue. We haven't a clue, DJ B2.
Yeah. But
what it is. I'm assuming it's a series.
Because there was a famous newspaper headline, wasn't there? That was when Edward Heath visited China. He's been shown around. You know what are all those soldiers or ceramic or something like that. You know,
yes,
Zion.
Yeah, and they got over the top. There's Daily Mirror. It said, "Hello, my old China." Sorry, seriously. I thought that was a good deadline because that's even better than Montgomery one, wasn't it? But another Daily Mirror one, Monty
Terracotta
flies back
soldiers.
to front. That's the one, terracotta. It wasn't China, but yeah, Monty flies back to front. And what was it? Oh, that was it. Sleazy sex acts in Soho, judges to act.
I see that DJ Bito has answered the question away. He said it's a sci-fi series written by a Chinese chap. It is in English. So, okay. Well, maybe look out for that. Yeah.
But now Nathan, Lucius, and Nathan needs a lot of help at the moment. I won't go into details. So we need to have some positive thoughts in Nathan's direction, okay? I have a theory about why deodorant was introduced, if anybody's interested. Fits in with current agenda. Far away, mate. We want to know what the problem is, you know.
It's to do with what's in those aerosol things, hasn't it got? I'm guessing, maybe I'm preempting
Aluminium?
but yeah. Or aluminum. I thought you were going to say aluminum, Patrick.
I'm around Brits. I can't say that. I can't do that.
You're being very well behaved. This is excellent.
Well, I was making a balls out. I was talking about my smart car. That's the side panel's been scratched and cracked, and I bought a second-hand one. And I was making a balls up with the. I was trying to talk in dollars last night, wasn't I, Patrick? And I was ballsing it up. But no, I've bought one. I bought one for just over £90. And I said it's about over $100. So
what did you buy?
A side panel for a smart car.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me about the cracked panel.
The cracked panel, yeah, it's cracked. But
they fixed your window, but they cracked your panel.
That's the one, yes. So I'm actually going to change that panel, do that myself. Now, Alice Gorgeous says, Nathan, something to do with our hormones attracting a straight male?
Really?
Maybe it's part of that extension. Yeah, that would be part of it. You know, your olfactory nerve can detect tons of odors, can't it? And that's so did we do a thing about the perfume industry once? I'm sure we did. But you see, look at who's behind the perfume industry. Well, you won't be surprised. And what it does is it interferes.
Yes.
Yeah, it interferes with the natural mating cycle of people. The number one thing for pulling you together with a member of the opposite sex, the main reason, of course, is to create babies. And the smell of the other person is subconsciously and triggers good selection, because what you can tell from the smell is if I get together with you, I don't like the smell of it, right? It's not that bad. It's a very subtle thing, right? But you can tell, apparently, and it would make complete sense to me because it's nature. You go, well, if we hook up together, we're going to have some pretty bouncy babies. They're going to be good. And if we get together, it probably won't turn out that well. And so the perfume industry completely buggers that up.
You're right. You're right. And I think that's probably why the divorce rate is so high, because people can't sniff the I mean, let's face it.
The natural stink of the other person.
That's right.
If they're meant for you, it'll be very attractive. Just quite naturally.
But
everybody carries around with them their own unique and distinctive odor, don't they?
We need a foot deodorant.
Because no one comes up to me.
Paul, we need a foot deodorant though. Really, that's just off-putting. Stinky feet.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go around smelling a lady's feet and going, I don't like the smell of these.
Sometimes you can't help it if it's that bad.
No, Fergie does that though, doesn't she? Or that's what she was filmed doing. But
I think another reason might be the food that we eat gives off an aroma, and if we're eating ultra-processed foods, it also would contribute to that stink. So it's a way to cover that up.
This has answered the problem, you see, why I always attract weird females. Perhaps it's flatulence that does it. There you go. Bloody hell. I can actually clear rooms. It says Alice culture similar to that, yes. It masks and blocks pheromones. So there we go. So
Eric, I was just wondering, back in the 70s, I'm assuming maybe as a young chap, you probably splashed on a bit of aftershave every now and again.
Oh yeah, what was it called? High karate. Remember High karate? Yeah.
There was that one. There was also Old Spice. That was the one where they did the surfing advert. You remember? That was the one that your dad wore, but it still chugged on into the 70s. Then there was Brute with Henry Cooper and Barry Sheen. Remember Brute?
Yeah, I remember
that was
Brute.
Good. The one I kind of got into, though, because I thought it was the most stupid name, was Pagan Man. we used... So we went off and all bought a bottle because we thought it was the most stupid thing ever. Yeah. And it had these big adverts of these sort of cave drawings on posters all over north of England. Go, grunt. Yes, I want to be a pagan man. Let's get that on. Yeah.
But do you remember one? Was it I had an auntie that used to speak like this. And my mum said, "Oh, I like that perfume. What is it?" She said, "Tramp." She had a perfume called Tramp. Well, I could have produced that. You just have a sniff in my garage when I'm changing the oil for the car. Did I ever tell you about the hypo oil incident?
No, please do.
Well, this is very embarrassing, you see. It's also the end of a relationship, you see. And there was a tramps.
Oh, we need some of that music, Eric. You know that music that Dave Lee Travis used to play when he was talking about breakups and things in the 70s?
Oh, is it
remember
not?
that?
Well, I remember
when you
that,
said it's about a breakup, so we need some sort of sentimental music. You need it in the background. Yeah, that sort of. Well, and then later on, her leg fell off. But 4 weeks later, it was always that kind of stuff. Sorry. You reminded me of it.
Well, her leg fell off because she was a loose woman. Sorry. Anyway, I was dealing with a gearbox. I was always messing around with cars. I still am. I do my own servicing. Apart from replacing window winders, I will not do that. It's the only one I won't do. Anyway, I was underneath the car with my mate, and we were, I think I was working on his car, and it was a bit late for this Tramps disco and I don't like discos. I never have done. Which my girlfriend was very posh. That has she had a friend that could, I don't know what she had, to lisp, and she called my name. She couldn't pronounce my name properly. Anyway, have you ever smelt hypo oil? I mean, once you get that on you can't get rid of the smell.
What is it?
Hypo oil. You put it in gearboxes.
Okay.
Oh, How do you spell it? How do you spell it, Eric?
I think it's HYP. Just put gearbox oil. And I'd
like
say
hypo oil.
Hypo. I can't remember how you spell it. Hypo. I think it's HY. I know. I can't remember.
Chinese there.
Oh, hypo. Anyway,
hypo.
I was pissing around with his gearbox, and it's all running down my arm, you see. And I used to wear a sun hat. It was all covered in grease and crap. Mm-hmm. We looked an absolute state. And I can't remember what time disco started, but I think it was about 7 o'clock, and we were really running late. So I said, "Well, why don't we go as we are?" She said, "What? We're having a wash there." So he said, "Okay." So we drove over the car. Shit, because we've been under the car, you see. And I walked in, there's all these people with sort of tramps outfits on, which they've actually bought in a posh shop. And we walked in, people must have thought, bloody hell, they've really got the ton. Shit all over us. And this is my friend. And we are going, hello.
Yeah, we brought the genuine order. We've the whole thing.
has really pushed the boat. And when it's dancing, she's going. This high boil, I mean, it takes about 3 days to get rid of the smell of pong. I mean, you really have to scrub hard to get rid of the smell it eats into you. And in those days, you didn't wear gloves and plastic gloves. You just got on with the bleeding thing. You know, got shit and all over you. But yeah, I mean, people are thinking, crumbs, they really went to town for the trams disco. But yes, I don't know why she sort of packed me up. I can't think why. Probably to do with. Probably she thought so his pheromones or his odor smells a bit funny.
Oh, smells are so evocative, though. Don't you think they are? Don't you think your olfactory memory is just like if you smell something that you associate, say, with being 15 or 25 or whatever, it's like instantaneous zoom back in the time machine. It's just instant. It's the most powerful sort of memory. You know, I always remember patchouli. Do you remember that? They used to sort of cover their denim jackets in patchouli, and every time I smell it, I'm at a gig in 1979 and all that kind of stuff. There was just clouds of it coming off. There's some good little comments coming in there.
Do you like the
Alice
smell? Oh, go ahead.
Well, Alice says, Hatchie, I have no idea what you just said, but we are not amused. Now, what did Hatchie say?
Yeah, I
he
should
said,
find that.
I love the smell of two-stroke on the bell end of an exhaust pipe. It's beautiful. He's right, though. Two-stroke engines are a bit addictive. The smell of them. Whoa,
yeah.
They're great.
Yeah,
they are.
And the
smell of gasoline.
The smell of a Morris 1000. There was one actually. An old.
I thought we were talking about religion.
I was just gonna go into that a little bit with the smell of incense. You know, you ever? I don't know, Paul. You probably went to church as a youngster, and
I did.
Did they do incense there?
No, they didn't.
Okay, so we used, it was always holidays they would use incense, and sometimes it was like overwhelming. Sometimes it was just like it just reminds me of childhood. Now, because of it, the use of it, and it's a pleasant smell, and it's just like
really.
These days, though, nobody wants to use it because it's like I go to church, and it's typically older people, and they're like, "Oh, I can't handle the incense; it hurts me." And it's like, well, it's probably medicinal, because a lot of the incense comes from pine resin of some sort, from a tree.
I mean, my experience of it, Patrick, is really super negative. I was about 9 or 10. I was a cub, which is before you become a scout. Were you a cub, Eric?
Nah.
Were you in the
Cubs?
Cubs?
I was in Cub Scouts.
Maniac. I was a cub. It was good for playing bulldogs across and getting injured and stuff in the hall and all that kind of stuff. But we went along to a church and they were burning it, and I had to leave after about 30 seconds. I couldn't stand it. Yeah, it just made me... I just found it, I really had a visceral sort of rejection of the whole thing. So I haven't smelled it since, but there you go. So yeah, I don't have positive vibes about it. I quite like the smell of dope. I don't smoke it. I can't stand it. But the smell of it, sort of from a distance, is quite nice in a way. It's sort of evocative, isn't it, of something? I don't know, degeneracy, I guess.
That smells like custard powder. That's nice.
My uncle used to smoke... but my uncle used to smoke peach brandy pipe tobacco. My uncle Jack.
Nice.
I had 3 Uncle Jacks, and one of the Jacks smoked peach brandy. I was talking actually to his daughter, my cousin. She now lives over in, I think it's San Diego or somewhere north of that. And she speaks all northern. She's really sort of amplified her northern accent to sort of stand out. She's extremely sort of broad Yorkshire when she talks. I said, "You're doing that on purpose, aren't you?" She said, "Yep, I get by on it. Everybody's kind of interested." Yeah, and I was talking to her about her dad. I said, "I used to love it when we used to come around to your house in Dewsbury, which of course doesn't have any English people in it at all now. If you've looked up, Dewsbury is one of the great lost little suburbs of England, tragically. But it was very nice when we used to go there. And he used to smoke this pipe, obviously, and You know, have you ever been in a room where it's just warm air, there's not a breath of wind in the room, and you just get these sheets, like sort of stratos cloud formations, like big layers of pipe smoke?
That's
I used to
right.
find this fascinating. Yeah, it was like an atmosphere all of itself. Wonderful.
Yeah. It was something, because apart from Richard, what's his name? He smokes a pipe, doesn't he? But I haven't seen a pipe smoker for years. Have you seen a pipe smoker?
I think you ought to get one, Eric. Seeing as though you've got a video feed, you'd have to put any tobacco in it. It'd be a good radio prop. It would. It'd be great. You could just present. It makes you look. You know, not that this is almost impossible. It would make you look even wiser than you already look. You know.
What about a cigar?
Yeah, Survival Steve would approve of you doing that.
Oh, he would. He would.
The permanent marker.
Yes.
Sorry, officer, I stabbed the guy a few times, but I'm smoking my cigar here. Yes.
But
Borkum Rough reminds me of Borkum Rough pipe tobacco. You ever smelt that?
No.
Type of? No, I think it's a Dutch type pipe tobacco. Really? We used to go up to Canada and go fishing, and at the border store they'd have these little corn cob pipes you could buy. And as youngsters, we'd buy them and buy a big pouch of tobacco and pretend that we're sophisticated smoking pipes. Back in the day.
Well, what we used to do on a cold morning when I was at school, we used to, when you get all your breath, you see the smoke, the breath coming out.
Yeah.
We used to walk along going, as if we're smoking, and you get the teacher saying, "Stop smoking, boy!" Just to piss them off, we'll walk along, go.
Well, okay, so you don't like incense, but do you like the smell of a campfire?
Depends on how camp it is.
Well, like a bonfire,
Hello.
in the backyard.
I've got a very vulgar joke about campfires, which I can't tell you, so it's too much, even for me. But it's pretty bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the smell of campfires. I guess it all depends what you're cooking on them, if you are cooking anything. But they're good.
Cooking,
I like the
just
smell of fire.
natural.
Fire's nice.
Yeah.
But Alice Gorgeous just says, "Darlings, I thought this was about religions." Yeah, well, motor vehicles are a religion. In my
so it's pipe smoking to some.
Pipe smoking, yes.
Smoking in general is a religion.
That's
Some
right.
people are more devoted to it than any religion.
Yeah.
But what about, you said about incense. The Church of England, well, the only time I've been to churches is for sort of christenings, weddings and funerals, all for the same person. And there's no incense there. And as far as I know, the Church of England doesn't have incense.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't it?
Used
No.
to.
Candles, but no smelly stuff. Not that I'm aware of. Never has. Never has.
I make my own incense from our fir trees that we have. I take the sap from them and then process it to burn on coals, and it's really just very nice, soothing type of smell. Camphor.
Yeah, being smelly can be very soothing at times. It can.
It does. I'll tell you another one I smell is a diesel car that's run on an old chip fat. And it smells like a fish and chip shop. So it makes everybody go, because I know somebody, I won't mention who it is, who actually has a diesel car and he runs it on chip fat. And he pulled up the traffic lights once in the summer with the window. There's a couple of girls crossing. They go, "Oh, it must be a chippy round here." This is exhaust. It smells of chips.
We used to have a guy that would do that. He had a VW diesel station wagon he converted to run off of vegetable oil and that kind of thing. And he'd go from restaurant to restaurant and get all of their old oil that they'd use for frying, for deep frying.
Yeah.
For free.
It's good. But you still have to pay your tax and all things like that. But it says here, Hachi says, "Never before in our history has a sense of humour been needed for Western mankind when do we wake up? Western mankind, when do we wake up?" Yes, this is why I think we got to laugh and keep on laughing. Because, let's face it, it was laughter that brought Ceausescu, the communist leader, down. Because he stood up on his balcony sort of doing all this, and everybody's, excuse my language, pissed themselves laughing at him. And he's going, "It's a bit strange," and they're all laughing because he actually banned comedians from speaking. So what they did is a mime act, which is even more funny, because they're taking the mickey out of him. And it's surprising how, what what happened with Bishop Jasper Carrot during the Cold War. We had these cruise missiles where they put them on the back of lorries and they could move them around the country and fire them at the former Soviet Union. So they weren't actually in one particular place all the time. And Jasper Carrot said, well, how are they going to do that when you've got a massive traffic jam up the M1 motorway? And apparently they had to revise their routes because he brought out something which is 100% true. A lot of our roads are clogged. But no, with religion, what did people, they reckon that elephants might have a religion, don't they? And crows. Because they do certain things when an elephant dies. There's certain rituals they do, and the same with crows. They do certain things. So,
Have you got a dictionary there, Eric? What is the dictionary definition of a religion? I've got one, but I can't. I'm in the dark.
Just one moment.
What is it? Look it up. Let's see what somebody says about what one actually is. We've all got a pretty
I have
close idea.
a classical Latin and English dictionary.
There it is. I've got it here.
I think it's a Latin-based.
Do you want to go ahead, Patrick?
You go ahead while I'm looking.
Thanks, mate. Religion is, and this is an AI overview, a religion is a structured system of beliefs, practices, and rituals relating to the sacred, divine, or supernatural, often including a moral code and a shared sense of community. It typically addresses ultimate questions about human existence, purpose, and origin of the world, and life and death. So there we go. Not many people know that.
Well, we all know it now. If we can
We know it now, yeah. So I told Jim, and he told him. Now he knows, and so I close, as they say. That was the Spike Milligan silly verses. Mm-hmm. But no, when you think about it, I'm probably one of the. I'm not qualified to talk about religion because I was not brought up in a religious household. My mother was, she was quite religious, I think, but I never went to Sunday school, never went to church unless it was as I say, a christening, marriage or death, and I've never read the Bible. So that makes me very ignorant. And I think I'm one of very few people that have not read the Bible. It's something that's never really interested me. But, I know it has some interesting verses about it. But I think you, Paul, have got something about the Bible, which it is an instruction manual as such. Am I right?
I sometimes refer to it in a blithe sort of way as a tactical, spiritual field combat manual for white people, because that's what I think it is. Yeah, because I think it's addressed to one particular race of people. And I think that because of the words that are in it, because basically that's what it says. As long as you can define who the contract's with, because it's a contract, is the Bible. That's what testament means, the old contract and the new contract. And contracts being binding formal agreements between two or more parties to do and or refrain from doing the things itemized in the contract. And everybody's familiar with what a contract is, so it's a formal agreement. And that's so that's the context for those words. It's about the unfolding of a contract between Yahweh, the name given to the God, the patriarch, as it were, the grand patriarch within the whole thing, and his people. And it doesn't include all people. Not because I say so, but because it doesn't. It says so. So that's my sort of assertion on that thing. I don't think it's even an assertion. Either that or I'm reading it wrong, but I don't think I am. And that shifts the whole sort of focus of what it's all about. So, you've got people saying that they can become Christians. I don't think it's possible. So you can't. This doesn't mean to say that a people couldn't benefit from adopting or taking on board some of the moral and ethical principles that are displayed, that are presented within the scriptures. It's not my shout. I assume that that's the case. But, whenever one group sort of says to another group, you need to be doing this, it generally doesn't turn out too well.
Well, Jehovah's Witnesses do that. And whatever beliefs you've got, while they're trying to ram it down your throat. And funny enough, I actually went to see Dr. Miles Fleetwood, to sort of top up the tablets and take some plants over that I'm growing for his assistant, who's, wanted some plants. And as I was walking along the high street there, there's a woman. She avoided me. I don't know why. And she, hello, and she went along and she said, "Are you?" She's got these sort of like cards. Are you born again? Oh, I'm pleased. Oh, and she was sort of a born again Christian. And she's sort of
I don't think you can be born again either. How about that, Eric, for being a contentious bugger? I don't think it even says that. It's born from above. That's what that's what it actually says. It's a different sort of. I think the subtleties are in it. I mean, my thing, one of my sort of criticisms of all of the religions is they morph into an organizational business model, which is to attract more congregants and get more bums on seats. And because that's been going on for an awful long time, they've actually lost touch with the instruction set in the manual. So they don't actually follow it. And you've got all these sorts of things. Now, we've got this thing called the Church of England, but it ain't, I don't know what it is. It's silly. Haven't they just put a woman in as the Archbishop of Canterbury or something with blue hair or something and 3 legs? I mean, who cares? That it's just mad. The whole thing is totally mad. Yeah, they're wolves in sheep's clothing. Yeah. They've morphed into it. They've drifted away from their instruction set. They say, we can do whatever we like. You go, well, you can, actually. That's fine. You actually can do whatever you like. And I can not pay any more attention to you because you're obviously very silly people.
But they've also destroyed, I think, a beautiful piece of architecture by painting rainbows on it. And someone's got to come along with a bit of common sense with a bleeding paint strip and take that off as quickly as they possibly can. And that might bugger up the stone. So
I know.
It's absolutely disgusting. And Hachi says, I've got a wounded pigeon. Well, we've all got our problems at the moment. Ah, bless her. Her tail feathers have been ripped out. I'm helping her. Oh, good for you. Good for you. That's very kind. That's beautiful. That is. And good luck. Healing thoughts to the wounded pigeon. Has she got a name? That's the thing.
He keeps pigeons, or she? Who are we talking about?
I don't know. Hachi. I've got a wounded
whoever
pigeon at the moment. Her tail feathers, yeah. How do you tell the difference between a male or female pigeon? I don't know.
Is that why they're called hatching pigeon eggs or something?
I don't know.
Fowl egg, hatchy.
Yeah. But I know that
I know a person who raises pigeons, by the way, for racing purposes and breeding.
Really?
For racing stock. Yeah. It's
and
quite
did you
a
know
thing,
the ring?
apparently.
The ring number is international, and this is a true story. You can look this up. A pigeon was found somewhere in China, and a bloke who found a pigeon was a pigeon fancier, and he read the ring and found out it was from England. And the Chinese airline kindly flew the pigeon home to England free of charge.
And then it got away again and went back to China.
Probably, yeah.
It's probably kind of thing they do.
Probably had a girlfriend there, Yeah. But
I was just thinking, Eric, as well. I don't know if you caught it on in the last hour on Thursday night. I had Eli James, right?
Yeah.
And I dug up a little thing, and it's worth just repeating it again here. This is I don't know what the source of this is, which is always irritating, right? It looks from the format of the post that it's come from Twitter, or X as it's now known. But this would not surprise me were it true. It's a little list. I'll just read it out. It's quite interesting. It says Christians are the main cause, contributor and financial beneficiaries of the EU migrant crisis. Christian organisations and donations estimate 80% of the total aid. And then there's a little list. I'll read it to you. There's about 9 on it or something. Churches commissioned for migrants in Europe, 15%. Jesuit Refugee Service Europe, 12%. Caritas Europa, 15%. The Salvation Army, 10%. Lutheran World Federation, 8%. World Communion of Reformed Churches, grown, 5%. Conference of European Churches, 5%. Migrant Christianity, 3%. Anglican Communion, 4%. World Methodist Council, 3%. Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity, 2%. Other Christian groups and donations, 3%. So there you go. That's how bloody useful they are.
And did you know that?
They're a menace.
I knew who was one of the. We know who was responsible for the first migrants to come over in the 1950s. What was that ship now? I can't think what it was called. But apparently it was the Methodists in coercion with the unmentionables that brought masses over.
Well, yeah, it's because they've been tunneled out, Eric. In my view, all of these organizational religions in America, they had this thing called the Schofield Bible, which is complete blather, and we don't have a similar thing. Although I did find out that the Schofield Bible. Do you know what that is? C.I. Schofield. You ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I'm the foggiest
I know
idea
what it is.
Schofield was just a piece of work. He was just a complete.
Not Philip
stick.
Schofield.
He abandoned his wife. He was complete.
He went by the title of doctor, even though he had never gotten a degree.
Absolutely, a complete
That's the type
fool.
of person he was.
Mm.
And so the Rothschilds sent their agent into that space. This is in the 1800s, right? They were a member of a big club using their agent at the time, Samuel Untermeyer. Now, Untermeyer crops up later in the 1920s and early 1930s. He's a very strong hand between the Judea declares war on Germany process, right? So Untermeyer is a Rothschild acolyte. They find this bum, Schofield, and they enroll him in this sort of gentleman's club. I can't remember the name of it. And
Lotus
they put
Club.
him up to... Yeah, that's it. And they put
With
him up
Mark
to rewriting
Twain.
the Bible. And then they really... And what it does is it includes the unmentionables within the overall framework of Scripture. And they're not in it. This is a biggie for most people. They're not in it. Not in the role that people think. You know.
The biggest problem with Schofield's Bible isn't so much the translation of the Bible itself; it's the footnotes that went along with the translation. So you'd look at the footnotes.
It warps the understanding.
Well,
and I think of all the documents, Eric, it lends more weight to Ford's assertion that when he said most Christians read their Bible through Jewish spectacles and therefore read it wrong. It's definitely worth remembering that one because that's what we're facing.
Was this? What are you saying? Ford? Are you talking about Henry Ford? Seriously?
Yep. I am. Yeah, Henry,
now,
he did some amazing stuff.
Nathan, we're now going to put the cat amongst the pigeons because this is what Nathan said.
There's twice pigeons have come up tonight.
That's right. Coup. It's a bit of a coup, isn't it? Bible was edited and updated edition on Hebrew Bible and Jewish religion, originally written by Semitic people, and that includes Arabs, updated by Greeks, and then doctored by the Romans. So there we go.
Well, I don't know if it puts the cat amongst the pigeons, but who do you think Semites are?
Well, they are from a region of the Middle East, aren't they? That's what I believe.
But do you think the unmentionables are Semites?
Most
people do, don't they?
Because they're Ashkenazi and Ashkenazi.
Well, there are three options. It's the Semites, Hamites, and Japhites. You know, because they represent the three sons of Noah after the flood.
Yeah,
there's the great flood that wiped out humanity except for Noah and his family in the ark. And then when he got out of the ark, it was his three sons and their wives, and they repopulated the earth.
Yeah,
and so it goes.
Well, I'm gonna suggest to you strongly that we are Semites. We are. That they're not. They don't descend from those people. Not even the Khazarians. Right. It's got no.
Part of the problem being though,
hang on.
That the genealogies have to be there in order to prove it. That's
so if someone
part.
Well, I think they. I just don't have all the documents to hand, but if someone says, "Are you anti-Semitic?" The answer is no, because that means you would be, as a Caucasian, you'd be against yourself. They don't descend from
part of that
those
problem
people.
Too is like define what a Semitic or what a Semitism is. You know,
I've actually got it here.
Mean?
This is in the dictionary. This is an AI overview. A Semite is a term often considered obsolete in modern anthropology, referring to a person who speaks or descended from speakers of a Semitic language, including Hebrew, Arabic, Amharic, and
now you got me tripping over my language.
Aramaic and ARA. No, there's AMHARIC and ARAMIC. Historically, it denoted groups from southwestern Asia and North Africa, such as ancient Hebrews, Arabs, Phoenicians, and Akkadians. I never heard of Akkadians. And them as well. See, so there we go. So that's that one. Now, that I actually thought it was a race. It's a language, so I didn't know that. That's something I've learned there. But hang on, I've lost myself. Where the bloody hell am I? There I. Right. Now Nathan says, this is Nathan Lucius. Everyone is qualified to talk about religion because it affects us all.
Can I read? I'm going to read
Certainly.
that definition I found here in my Latin English dictionary, and it's Follett Publishing. They did this. What it says here for religio or religionis, the definition is conscientiousness, scrupulousness, conscientious exactness. That's the first definition. The second definition is respect for what is sacred, respect for conscience. So those are the two that it begins with, and then it goes on to different definitions of like the negative part, which would be like superstition, or from that which is holy and sacred. So religious obligation, religious worship, the worship of gods, external religion, that sort of thing. An object of worship, a holy thing, sacred dwelling of a god, that. But as far as it goes, conscientiousness. What's so bad about conscientiousness? In the strict sense of a definition for it.
That's interesting. I mean, Nathan has said, not a case of cat amongst pigeons. I know history and I know religion, but yet people will believe whatever they want, regardless. Now, here's a question. Is belief in government a religion?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Because it is. It's like the government should be a combination of, we say as Catholics, church and state. Now, what that means is essentially the church is the soul, the state being the body of, if you could use it as an analogy, and state being the political, everything having to do with, everything for the running of a moral society, essentially, is what it should be.
Morality. I mean, it's a bit
morality,
like
practical reason.
Yeah.
That's another name for morality is practical reason, and
DJ,
how in alignment the society is to practical reason, the more moral it is.
Well, DJ B2 said Semites tend to eat semolina with Marmite.
I quite like that definition. That's quite useful.
Semolina, they eat semolina with Marmite. That's it. Now, I have a genuine question of curiosity for Patrick. Well, please put it in block capitals, and I'll pop it through. Certainly far ahead. Now, Nathan has also said Muslims, Persians, and Middle Eastern people are Semitic.
Yeah.
Genetics will back me on that, as well as history. And now it says, and don't get me started on the false bullshit history spouted by, well, I won't mention the chap's name because that would be wrong, but you can read it. I don't want to spend that time in court. Now, compare Irish to Hebrew. Irish, it's also Welsh as well, may entirely contain it as it only has 8,000 words. Yeah, because Welsh is very close, isn't it, to Hebrew, I believe? Isn't it? Yeah.
Well, the Welsh could read Egyptian hieroglyphs, and the language, it's to do with Paleo Hebrew, which is even older, the Old Hebrew. And then it taps into the Druids. It gets the map. When you look at it, you've got people we're talking about 3,000 years of history, and probably even longer than that. So the movement of tribes and then the intermingling of them at certain points is just part of the history. And it makes sort of a Sherlock Holmes approach extremely challenging, even though people take it on and pull it all apart and get to some sort of truth with it, or something less error prone. I don't think there's any sort of this is my view, in this field that hasn't got some errors in it. It's just unfortunate that most of us can't detect where they are today. Maybe tomorrow you find another one, you go, that's now not right. Okay, so we throw that out. But it's tricky. And of course, I think, what Nathan said is that we are all affected by religion, just as we're all affected by government. And it taps it. We just are. I mean, we're a governmental type animal now. because we've been trained in it for such a long time.
That's
Oh,
right.
we must have
I
some
don't think
human
I
authority
don't think they
system.
can. I don't think you can separate the two, religion.
Well,
and
I
government.
don't. No, I absolutely agree with you. You can't. And in fact, there is no separation between church and state. There shouldn't. I mean,
Really?
well, no, not really. No, not in the book. There isn't. I mean, look, the whole idea, Christ never talked about building large organized church systems. There's not a word of that. There's nothing in it. Build a great big priesthood and do all. It's all. This is what men have done since that point forward. Now, maybe there are very good reasons for it, or at least understandable ones. You go, well, how are we going to keep on committing this? I mean, I don't know what it was like exactly, but a quick guess would be the vast majority of people were illiterate. I think. So I'm told. Maybe that's another pack of lies. Maybe they weren't.
Well, I would disagree with it not being set up to where we have an institution, and that is something that protects people. And I think that he did set it up, and he did say in the New Testament that you'd be born again of water and the Holy Spirit in baptism, and there's certain elements that we regard as Catholics to be sacred as the sacraments, we call them. We have the 7 sacraments of it goes baptism, holy matrimony, a Eucharist, confession, anointing of the sick, priestly orders, and I'm trying to think of and confirmation. So these things are scriptural, that have been passed on in the institution of the Catholic Church and the hierarchy. And, you know, people within the hierarchy have been corrupted, yes, and they've tried to destroy it, but it's never really been destroyed to the point where we still have a visible church to this day, 2,000 years after the death of Jesus Christ. And
yeah, I know, but I've got a massive but with all of that, Patrick.
I know. And I think especially in the British Isles, the UK, the history being what it is, there is an aversion toward Catholicism that goes back, 500 years.
Oh, it goes back further than that. It goes back 2,000 years. I mean, it goes back when I can't remember who the Roman guy, he sent someone over here, didn't he? Go, convert them to Christianity. And he came back to Rome and he said, I can't. Why? He said, because they're already doing it. So the Church of Rome is not the first church in the world. It was institutionalized in this nation 2,000 years ago because it's Druidic, is the teaching. So it's not very well known. This is why there's all this sort of overlap and commonality of things, because it's look, it's not a popular thing, but I can't read it any other way. That book is a book of the race. It's a racial document. Christ himself discriminates on the basis of race.
Well, okay,
and that's thrown out. Churches just throw that out. Anybody can. You can't. It doesn't matter what churches say. It's just not possible to do it. If I'm reading it right, and I don't think I'm reading it wrong. I mean, it's literally that. Well, he literally discriminates against other people. Does Christ himself? He says, no, you forget it. The churches don't do that. They go, no, we need more bums on seats. This is a universal message of peace and love. We're all going to come together. And then they're involved in nothing but wars. They've got massive financial holdings. The Church of England making bloody billions out of all sorts of things, investing in warfare. It's deranged.
Right. They're the worst property owners. But
yeah, it's just horrific.
Nathan's question for Patrick. I'm sorry, Nate. Sorry, Patrick, put you on the spot here. Well, as we say,
I don't mind it a bit.
Sorry for slipping the turd into your pocket, as one of an old English saying. It says,
don't worry, I'll throw it in my garden.
I didn't mean any rudeness to you, Nathan.
Grow.
Sorry, that's just an old, that's a, I don't know, South of England saying. My question for Patrick is regarding the Bible. Where exactly do you think it comes from originally, please? So there we go.
I think the oldest that we have of the Old Testament and that the apostles used was the Greek Septuagint, it's called. And it was Ptolemy, the king of Egypt, had the Hebrews translate the Bible, 72 translators. I think that's where the word Septuagint comes from, or 70 translators. Translate it from the Hebrew into Greek. And that is actually older than any of the extant Hebrew, so-called Hebrew texts of the Old Testament, even the Dead Sea Scrolls. So that's where I go to the source. And usually when I'm looking at a Bible, I look at the Douay Rheims English version of the Bible, which I think is superior to the King James or any other English translation. because it uses the Septuagint numbering. It has the old, what the Protestants refer to as Apocrypha, but it's not. The Catholics regard those as biblical books, and they were taken out because they didn't fit an agenda. And I think that the Septuagint, I'd go to that as the oldest. And that was, I don't know how many years before Christ that was composed or compiled together, because it was a translation.
Sorry for coming in here. I didn't mean to cut across you there. Nathan says, no, Patrick. I am talking about original scriptures, not Greek scriptures.
That's what I mean. I mean, the translation of the original scriptures is what we have. We don't have those originals. Like we say that Moses composed the Torah, the early 4 books of the Bible, like Genesis, for instance. Those books, you can't find them before the Septuagint. As far as any sort of manuscripts, or you might be able to find fragments that may predate the Septuagint, but it's not a whole complete set that give you the Old Testament or even the first 4 books.
Mike Mantis, thanks, mate, for putting it in capitals. It's so much, it helps me, because I'm sort of, you notice I'm looking sideways all the time, looking at the chat, and it says, what about the Ethiopian Bible?
Yeah, I don't know much about the Ethiopian Bible.
Well, that goes back even further. That's really quite.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't know much about the Ethiopian Bible.
That's
there's a lot of. I mean, it's where the Book of Enoch comes from the Ethiopian Bible, which predates the Bible by a long time.
Now,
in my view,
Stephen Truthseeker said, "God isn't a person."
Can be.
Well, we in fact believe that 3 persons, one nature, and Christ had both natures of God and man, and that 3 persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And this was really, you go into the Greeks that debated this after Jesus, and you get into certain disputes, like for the whole creed, the credo, which we follow the Apostles' Creed, which is, I believe in God, the Father, the Almighty. I could spout it off because I've got it memorized. We say it every Sunday or every time we go to Mass, so it's quite well known. And that gives you the idea of the belief system, the doctrine of the Catholic Church being set out in a creed form. Like, these are the things we believe, God, the Father, the Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. So we have one God, he created all things. And then it goes on to describe the different parts of the different persons of God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the only begotten Son, who was there from the beginning of creation. And it speaks of it, him coming to redeem mankind after Adam fell. Because if you look in scriptures in the book of Genesis, God created Adam and Eve. And as far as the Catholic
not Adam and Steve.
Not Adam and Steve, exactly.
Yeah,
and I know if you go by the Enoch type thing, you get into the whole thing, and then the Talmud and all these other books that describe it. Even the Quran have a different take on Genesis. But that's essentially what it was.
See, when I was at school, we had to say the Lord's Prayer every morning at assembly. I don't think children do that anymore. And do you say that do they have the Lord's Prayer in a Catholic church? Is it the same? I don't know.
Oh yeah, we say it every Sunday, every Mass.
It's about the only one I could probably remember.
Well, it's because that's the prayer from Jesus. That's the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples to pray, how to pray.
Right.
That's part of the creed as well.
Now Nathan, he's got another question for us. He says, Moses never existed. How could he write the Torah when it discusses what happened after he apparently wrote the Torah? How could he write?
You mean to Deuteronomy?
I don't know.
Because there's the book of, I think, what do they consider the 4 books? It's Genesis, Exodus, I think is one of them. There are ones that were written after him, but those four books I'm almost certain that was Moses that wrote those.
It's interesting
It's,
that Nathan asserts that Moses
Genesis,
never
Exodus,
existed.
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, and then Deuteronomy.
Well, secondly, for Patrick, also, what about those who do not acknowledge the Bible as official history and the Word of God?
What about them? I mean, there are plenty that didn't have the Bible. Like anybody who was a pagan wouldn't have had the Bible, and wouldn't have been exposed to it.
And
but they
also,
say even like the Greek philosophers had some exposure to it because of the being in the same vicinity in the Mediterranean with the Hebrews.
Yeah,
Clapton is
but I
God.
mean, even that word pagan, it simply means country dweller.
Yeah, and then
the root of it is
just
país. You know, like there's that newspaper in Spain, El País, which simply means the country. And pagans, this is, you know, when you keep tunneling into these things, and you have to go, how much more tunneling is there? Loads, probably. But one of the points that I came across, I used to have a lot of discussions with Chris, the old guy who passed away last year, and I miss my conversations with him tremendously. But pagan simply means country dweller. And when the High Church of Rome, all organized, rocked up, there were people that rejected it. And so they became known as pagans, as a sort of discriminatory term to reduce them. But they were actually practicing it as taught. They were just doing it. I mean, in France, for example, in the 100s and 200s and 300s, before the Church of Rome got its act together under Constantine, they were just doing exactly what Christ said. He said, basically, meet in little groups and talk about things in the Spirit of God with me present. That's it. Discuss the affairs of state. That's why there is fundamentally no separation between church and state.
That's different from a pagan, though, because like
it is now. It wasn't then, though. It's become a discriminatory. Now it means a godless person, doesn't it? Isn't that the modern definition of it? Isn't that what it means?
I would
just saying
say
that at the time it wasn't. It didn't mean that at all. It was just the people
I would go by
that rejected all the church.
St. Augustine wrote what was called the City of God against the pagans in 400, which was just after Constantine had existed, and then there was Julian the Apostate who reverted back to paganism.
Tried to.
You know what's meant by paganism is a worshiping a multiplicity or duality of gods instead of just one God. And he meant that, and I think people like Socrates and Plato and what were called the natural philosophers. He mentions in City of God that Plato was the greatest because he acknowledged one God over all gods, or over all men, over all creation, and that there could have only come from one God. And so even the pagans that didn't have the scriptures and didn't have that going for them, they were able to arrive through logic and reasoning that there's only one possibility of a God creating all things, one God, not a duplicity.
Yeah.
So usually when we say pagan these days, we kind of I think of somebody worshiping a duplicity of gods, or like the pantheon of gods that the Romans followed, like Jupiter, Janus, all that kind of stuff. Mars.
I mean, is it the Indians or the Sikhs or whatever? Which is the tribe from India that have got tons of?
Hindi?
You go into their houses, they've got loads of little figurines of all these different godlets.
Hindus?
Let's call them that.
Isn't that Hindu?
Maybe. I don't know. But you
Please,
see, one way of sort of describing that is, they're worshipping loads of gods. But there's additional stuff. I think when I was reading something about a year back. He said, no, we're not worshipping loads. We're only worshipping one God. These symbols, as it were, illustrate all the different aspects of God.
I was just going to
We
say
don't
that.
worship them
Yeah.
as individual gods. They're just all a parts of these qualities of life. That's, that can be rejected too. You can say, no, they don't. They're really just worshiping all these different things. I don't know.
Well, and that's just it.
You
It's
you
like
have
then-
to sort of talk to the people that are doing it and what each individual means. I suppose it's a labyrinthine sort of challenge. It really is.
That's
It's quite
what
complex.
Augustine goes into is like why then do we have multiple gods if there's only one God, and these are just aspects of God, the properties of God. And
Well,
so-
it's a good point. But I mean, I suppose different people have expressed it in different ways, haven't they? Because of their culture or their circumstances or whatever. I sound as though I'm trying to let them off. I don't think that they're wicked, but there's so many errors that have been made up and down the line,
Well, there's a film, wasn't there? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, Paul, but
No, it's
there's
all
a
right.
film, I can't remember which one it was, where I think it might have been Dick Attenborough said, well, the Germans are all praying to God and the Allies are all praying to God. Poor God, he's got a very difficult decision to make. But Nuki Brown said, where did Wilson and Blackett say the Ark of the Covenant was? Wales.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
why
Wales.
is it, I'll put in one in here, that a lot of Cornish fishing villages along the sort of Newquay coast have Hebrew names? Why? It's very strange.
Well, because Christ studied there as a young boy as the nephew of Joseph of Arimathea, who was involved in the tin trade.
And do you think
England's
that
England's
the Bible's
completely wound
about
up in all of this.
England? Do you
It's
think it
totally
wasn't
wound
in
up
the
in it.
text?
Yeah, and the war, as it were, between the Catholic Church and England, which really manifested under Henry, which of course is also another bit of hilarity and very vicious and violent and all that kind of stuff, amidst all this kind of stuff. You see, the other really weird thing is that Constantine grew up in Yorkshire. I pointed this out, and it's just absolutely bizarre. I was pointing this out to some Yorkshire's. They go, did he? I said, have you ever been to York Minster? They go down there. There's a bloody big statue of him. Find out what went on. And him and his, according to Wilson and Blackett, right, and others, there's also a guy called Cummins Beaumont, who's definitely worth reading. It's very mind-expanding and challenging stuff.
Are these new historians?
No, Cummins Beaumont, well, I don't know what you mean by new. Cummins Beaumont
Well, I mean
was
within
actually...
the last 500 years.
Oh, yeah. These are within the last...
Okay,
I mean, Wilson and Blackett only just died recently. Wilson made it into his 90s.
Okay.
He did some his videos are definitely worth watching. They're absolutely amazing. And he's from about the mid-1950s.
I'm not trying to discredit them by saying they're new.
No, I know
I'm
you're
just
not. I
trying-
don't even
yeah.
hear it like that, Patrick. It's fine.
good.
I mean, I don't hear it that way, so that's cool. No, it's more grist for the mill. There's too much grist and not enough milling, unfortunately. I don't know how we're supposed to mill it all, but he just did some amazing work. And he's the guy that basically looked at hieroglyphs, Paleo-Hebrew, the Welsh language, all of these things. Wales plays a role in it, which some people in Wales still know. Then you've got the Arthurian myths, which he spent a lot of time looking at and found out that there were at least two Arthurs, if not three, but there were two. And but Constantine's about, 330 AD is the Council of Nicaea, but he was a Yorkshire lad. He came from Yorkshire. I mean, I don't suppose he spoke like that. He would have been speaking Latin, and he was High Roman and all that kind of stuff. But according to Wilson and Blackett, I think it's Wilson and Blackett, him and his mum was a plotter, and they plotted to get him back in. And he basically nationalized, for want of a better word, he made Christianity the religion of Rome because of what he picked up here. Because of what he picked up here. Yeah,
Okay.
And he did it. And when he was at that Council of Nicaea, he said, the books that are going to go in are the ones that I say. This book has always been used for political purposes. So they omit or emphasize. The Church of England did it with the King James Bible.
I think he hired St. Jerome or commissioned him to do that, if I'm not mistaken, because Jerome came up with the Latin language translation known as the Latin Vulgate.
Mm-hmm.
Where he took the Greek and the Hebrew text that he had available to him.
Yeah.
And Constantine consulted him on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think much of it as well is a sort of, it's a claim. All of these sort of institutions are making a claim as to who is on the contract. So it's actually a race of people that are on the contract. And the church says, no, it's not now. It's actually devolved to the church. It hasn't. It never did. It can't. It's got nothing to do with it. But this is men's attempts throughout the last 2,000 years to sort of abrogate for themselves that power. I mean, King James did the same thing. He wanted to be the Pope 2.0. So his translators, they replaced the word, what did he replace? I think it's congregation or something. He replaced it with something else, or it's vice versa. It was so that you had to have a head of the church, which is what he wanted to be. But you don't need one. There is no instruction set for that in the contract. So these are people coming along looking and going, I don't quite like the look of that. I think I'll fiddle around with it. We can just pull the wool over people's eyes for the next 300 years and get away with it. And they've been able to do that. So
that's been part of people. That's been part of the problem, though, is because there is a head in the sense of God being the head of the church, and I know what you're going to say because you that word that you translate was ecclesia, is what you're. I think I've heard you talk about this before, which means church essentially, like ecclesiasticus.
No, it doesn't. Well,
I mean, okay,
I don't think
it doesn't mean church, but not in the sense of what. The modern sense is what you're talking about when it comes to
the modern sense is to me, it's so far away from the original instruction set that it's less than useless. And I, even just reading out that list of these so-called Christian organizations, their acquisition of money, the fact that they've got their own bank, the Vatican Bank. I mean, good grief, there's a complete thing in there about practicing usury, and they're doing it. I just look at one thing and I go, you're obviously not the genuine article. Because it's been tuned. And I'm not just picking on that one. Church of England is just equally as bad. They're all the same. They're all completely blokes getting together saying we've got a better interpretation than anybody else. No, by the way, will you borrow some money off us? And we own all this land and we're going to boss you around. In spite of my criticism in that direction, there's also been good stuff inadvertently occurred. But I keep coming back often in much of my thinking to that book by Tupper Saucy, Rulers of Evil. How does God restrain and control evil? He uses evil. And Saucy points the finger right at the Jesuit order within the Catholic Church as being the main manifestation of that. And it works. You see, that's what Saucy said. And this is good, he said, because it's by scriptural decree. This is how you actually keep it down. I don't think he was advocating for everybody to go off and become a Jesuit unless you're willing to take that oath, which is chilling to the bone. What's left of your soul? I mean,
the history of the Jesuits, that's a whole topic in and of itself, right there. I mean,
it is.
They started out. I think what they've become compared to what they started out with is different than how it began.
But it began by an unmentionable Patrick, didn't it? Loyola was a converso.
No, it didn't. The Saint Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, was a very holy man, as far as I'm concerned.
He was a converso.
I don't know.
Go
if
look
he was
it up.
Converso.
He absolutely was. He's a converso.
It was during the
Ignatius
time
of Loyola.
Conversos, no doubt, in Spain.
He was
because that was a big problem.
He was absolutely one of them.
You had conversos and Moranos, they were called, that would falsely convert in order to remain citizens and have the perks of citizenship, because Jews weren't allowed to become citizens. And they weren't allowed in the culture of the civilization because of the corrupt morals that they practiced in their religion. And
this is true.
They protected the society by coming up with things like the Inquisition, which today it's laughable because, it's made into a mockery. Whereas what it was actually a protection of the society from things like usury and from murder.
Well, the Inquisition.
The Inquisition was...
Yeah, but Torquemada, the head of it, was also a converso. Until this thread's understood, everything's muddied. They're all the Jesuits are the Jewish wing of the Catholic Church. Always have been. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
Well, go read Tupper Saucy's book. Go read Saucy's book if you haven't read it, because it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely off the charts useful. It's an incredibly challenging read, but you'll find that all the popes are black nobility from Venice, same crew every single time. It's just, and we've got it over here. I'm not just picking on the Catholic Church. It's everywhere. These things get infected by the unmentionables, and then they get twisted away over several hundred years, and you end up with something that's nothing like the original. Everybody goes, "Why has it turned out like this?"
Part of this also has to do with the historians that write the books, the press, the people that, the victors of the wars end up writing the histories of what happened during the war.
Yeah.
It was at a time when the Jesuits were founded. That was at a time when there was infiltration being exposed and judged and being dealt with. And the people who were judged ended up
when did the Jesuit order start? 1500 and odd, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, because I know that Peter Canisius was one of them.
Well, a thing to throw in here just quickly, even though we've gone all sort of slightly historical, which is to do with the League of Cambrai. Good. The League of Cambrai marching on Venice in the late 1400s, which is really important bit of history that's not well known, I think. So the League of Cambrai was made up of the French, the English, because we were a Catholic nation at the time,
the Holy Roman
and the
Empire.
Spanish. And there was about 50,000 in this army, and the Pope had got hold of this army, and he said, I want you to go over and see the Doge in Venice and tell him what for. Why? Because Venice is the hangout of the black nobility, or Khazarians. So here we go again. It all roots back to this nearly every time, 99 times out of 100. And he was sick of them they used to send their ships out and tax anything that went by Venice.
Pirates.
And this is a practice.
They were pirates.
Yeah. They were pirates, and they used to do it in Khazaria over all the rivers. I mean, it was a huge empire, Khazaria, about 1 million square miles or something, massive thing. And they had all these waterways, and every time a boat went down the waterway, they'd send somebody out and charge them a toll for just going through. Well, this practice carried over into Venice, and the Pope had enough. So he puts this league together. Venice was not completely underwater at the time. It was marshland, getting that way, but it wasn't. So they could march to it. They camped outside Venice. They had a chat, and the Doge or whoever and all of the black nobility at the time agreed that it would be a bad idea to let them wipe them out. So they left, and they came to some formal agreement with the Pope. I don't know what it was, and off they went. But then they got together, this remnant of the black nobility, and they said, we're not having this happening again. We're going to destroy the church. And what we'll do is we're going to send our sons and daughters into their seminaries and monasteries, and we're going to learn the structure of the church, and we're going to tunnel it out from within. And one of the weapons they used was the creation of the Jesuit order through their converso pal, Loyola. It's all there. It's written down. And this is what happened. And that's when you get Martin Luther springing up, because he was funded by the Fuggers, who were indirectly funded by the black nobility. And then, of course, Luther wakes up to the fact that he'd been used later on, and wrote his book about whatever it is. I can't remember the title of it, The Lies of the Jews or whatever it's called, something like that. He wrote that then, once he sort of cottoned on to how he was being used.
Them and Their Lies.
Yeah, that's it. Them and Their Lies. All that kind of stuff. And so that period of history is all part of it. And they picked England and the court of Henry VIII as being the place where they would rip it apart. And they did. That's exactly what happened. Of course, the really funny thing about Henry VIII is he wrote, this was all kicking off, he wrote this big sermon, for want of a better word, which was a defense of the faith. And it went to the Pope. The Pope said, this is so fantastic. This is one of the best. I've not read it, by the way. I won't mind getting hold of a copy of the document. And he said, this is so brilliant, Henry, my old pal. I'm going to give you a title. I'm going to call you the Defender of the Faith. And really, funnily, after he then split with Rome, he didn't let go of the title. And every monarch in England has always called themselves the Defender of the Faith, right down to Charles to this day. They love their titles, don't they? And all that kind of stuff. So it's complex. Didn't know that. It is complex.
And Nathan's another one. Sorry, carry on,
go
mate.
ahead. I just want to say one thing about Henry VIII. He had good men before he broke from there, and with the Pope, he had people like Thomas More, whom he later killed. A lot of these people who defended against Martin Luther, and I highly doubt that Henry was the one who did it. He may have been the one who commissioned a lot of these responses to the Protestant, the Martin Luther. His revolt, and that's one of the reasons. But then when he wasn't able to get a divorce from Catherine of Aragon, who was Spanish, by the way, he wasn't. He then went after all of the people who followed the church's teaching about marriage.
I don't think he ever
had them destroyed.
Any of his wives. The weddings were annulled because it's a bit of a thing that's
it's essentially divorce, though. He had children with Catherine. It wasn't like he didn't.
The English loved Catherine. They loved her. and they were very sad about the whole thing. But of course, it opened this whole thing. Then you get the Reformation, or the devastation, as it should be called, because this is the divide to conquer thing.
Right.
And it worked, unfortunately. So he rips all the churches off, because all these guys that sided with Henry said, well, we don't want to, we'll get excommunicated from the church. He said, oh, I don't know. I mean, someone was doing the negotiating for him or whatever. He said, well, I'll give you loads of land and stuff, not expecting them to come back and claim it.
It was a looting operation. They took all the monasteries, killed the monks, the abbots, the people who ran.
It's just horrific. Yeah, Cobbett's book on it, William Cobbett's book on it, is a fantastic read, written about 1812 or something. Very easy to read. You think, oh, Cobbett's actually one of the top 5 Englishmen ever. No one talks about him, but he is. He opposed the Bank of England, Eric. So he spent time in time in prison because he was against fiat money and paper money and everything, and he wanted gold and all this. So it's the same essence. You know, we want to.
How long ago was
manipulate? 200 years ago, 220 years back. Fantastic guy. Nobody knows about him much. Cobbett, a great essayist, and basically just went against the flow in politics all the time. Stood up for things as a man should. You know, we haven't had many in the history of politics at all, but he was definitely one of them. And he was in the Church of England, but his book, The Reformation, is fantastic because he's saying, look, you got to understand, Englishmen that were friends a few weeks later were killing one another. For no damn good reason whatsoever. But what it did is it opened up the portals for all the sort of mercantilism that we've got right now. That whole period.
That's right.
Because you've got the East India Company was formed in 1600 and became the most powerful global corporation ever. Nothing will probably ever get close to it in terms of its influence at the time, given the scale of the world economy. It was absolutely off the charts. The usual suspects are involved in forming it. Stock companies, joint stock companies, all these things start springing up around then. And as the church splits and you get the Church of England, it just turns into another extension.
And what it did is they stopped going with the biblical principles of marriage and inheritance.
And it began that process. Absolutely, it did. So they threw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying it was perfect by any means, but they did. And but it was manipulators inside, you know, the Iagos of this world, whispering in people's ears and getting them to kill one another. And they're able to do that, unfortunately.
And then part of that problem, too, is like we've talked before about primogeniture, the biblical primogeniture, where the firstborn son inherits the family wealth from the father when the father dies, which protects the family from bankers coming in and collecting his possessions, which in biblical terms, it protects the family and the family's health and well-being as a consequence. And what ended up happening with Henry VIII, it ended up being that they allowed Elizabeth to reign instead of a male heir, which would have been one of his relatives instead, would have taken over. And that was the consequence of the greed, though, because it becomes a matter of property and then keeping it all in the family and creating these corporations in order to subvert the family, because then the corporations become what's important rather than the family.
I think you could say as well that mythical period called Merry Old England ended with Henry. It may have ended before that, but it did.
Oh, there were wars before that, but it wasn't.
There's been nothing but fighting around here forever. It's just non-stop. But
we're very good at our wars. We are particularly good. But
same with America, we're good with wars. You know, there's been very
was it George Carlin?
What, he likes them, does he?
Yeah, you know, George Carlin said America likes war, and they love it, you know, and so did Britain. But Nathan, as Lucius has said, Patrick, in Genesis and a few other books, Yahweh considers that there are other gods, which again dates back to earlier civilizations and religions. Pardon me. He also had a wife, Asherah. Not many people know that.
Yeah, that's not in scripture. Yeah. But as far as the gods, meaning like small g gods, would be like the angels, and the men that lesser gods, meaning someone who isn't the creator, he's the creation, but of a great importance and strength. Like the devil is considered the he was the greatest angel in the sense of power and that kind of thing, but he chose to be evil and wicked. And since the angels are considered purely spiritual creatures, the moment that they were created, they were given the choice of good or evil, and the ones that chose good were the good angels. Like Saint Michael was considered the greatest angel of the good angels, and then the bad angels would be the devil, Satan, who chose evil, or Lucifer, however you want to put it. And that wasn't it was different with man, because man is both spiritual and carnal, because we have both a spirit just like the angels, but we have a body which differentiates us from the purely spiritual creation. But we're still creation, and the small g gods refers to that, and it doesn't refer to like a creator, like more than one god that created things.
Now,
So,
would you like a bit more Yuri Brezhnev? Oh, so I've still got him there.
What,
somewhere.
high speed? Is he still wearing those underpants?
No, he's got his baggy trousers on this one. So let's hear a
nice.
bit more Yuri, shall we? Where is he? And he's talking about what is happening to society. And this, remember, is in the 80s. He said this, and it is as relevant then as it is now, or the other way around. Here he comes.
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent, despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. This is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. Ideological subversion is the...
And there it is. I'll just get rid of that.
Thanks to the lack of moral standards. But that's the thing that we've talked about before, is that it's your next door neighbor. It's the condition that other people are in that actually, once they got the ball rolling, people that used to be your pal are now arguing for the very thing that's actually making life the misery that it is, because they want to conform with the big guy. That's definitely a part of it.
And another part is getting people involved in vices in order to control them. I'll give you an example. I'm reading a book right now, and it talks about how in Hungary they'd have somebody who would come in and be, okay. So this book, first of all, let me back up. This book that I'm reading is called Jewish Business Practices, and it's written by George Ratzinger, who was the great uncle of Pope Benedict, who just died some years ago here, not that long ago. And he's talking about what the Jews would do when they moved into Hungary to a village to subvert and get control of the property. They would go in and set up a alcohol storehouse. And then they would start giving out booze for free, bottles of booze, to get the farmers addicted to drinking. And then gradually they would start to charge for that liquor. And then it would get to the point where all of the business in the village of trading, say, like farm goods, eggs, livestock, ended up going through this one liquor store, where you had to go to you'd go to the liquor store to make the deal, because you were so in debt for the booze that you were buying, that gradually this one person was able to take control of the entire village and buy up the whole property and have everybody working for him. That's the moral corruption. That's just kind of like a microcosm of how it works.
Yeah.
It's like you go in, you subvert the morals of the people, you get them dependent on, you for their kick, whether it's sexual, whether it's, whatever vice it is, drugs, alcohol, or gambling. Fiat currency. Well, yeah, that's good. Those are all ways of demoralizing people and getting them to go against reason, because it's like, well, I need my next fix, or I need my next whatever it is, fix of money.
Yeah. That's a very good example, that, actually. I mean, that's what they did to the kulaks in Russia, and probably everywhere. It's a basic model.
But in this book, it's quite interesting that he had a notion for a proposition to these banks as a way to get them to cool it with the usury. What he proposed was, if you're a savings bank that both has savings deposits on accounts and gives interest on those savings accounts, and also lends out money as loans and then has an interest rate to pay back for those loans, that the deposits and the loans, the separation of interest could be no more than 1%. So if you had a savings bank and you had savings accounts there, and you charged 3% interest to give to the people who had deposits, and you also had loans, you couldn't do more than 1% for those loans, so it could only be 4% interest. And that, I think that would, that as a practical thing, could be a way to get these banks under control, because if you only have, because then they would have to really go after people who were good people for lending them money, and it's not about trying to collect money at usurious rates, because those same people could put their money in the savings account and get back their, the interest charged on the savings account.
Yeah. It just amplifies their control all the time, which is, so whenever it's present, it's just a matter of time. It doesn't matter how low that interest rate is. The lower it is, the longer it will take for someone to absorb the interests of the entire village, because the numbers say
ultimately,
yes. Ultimately, that's what happens. And then also during that process, they build up around them such a group of powerful people from our own group who would then become dependent on it because they've got positions of power, or they're called Lord this or Lord that they then act against their own peasant class because they become accustomed to a particular lifestyle. It's someone's written in the chat, it sounds like grooming gangs. That's exactly what it is. We've been groomed into a state of despondency, really. Not that I'm despondent right now, but you know what I mean. We have. I think they were excessive to start off with, but they've learned that that's not really. So now the model is that we are treated like cattle, in a field, tax-paying cattle, and you just got to admit that is the case. That is the condition.
Well, what do you think of that, Paul? Though that idea. Say you had a bank. So you have a village, then you have a bank in the village. It's like the only bank in the village. You have it so that there's only a 1% difference between savings and loans, so that if you're charging 10% for a loan, those savings accounts
give 9% savings interest.
Exactly.
Yeah, it would be a start in the right direction. It's a start that they wouldn't want to make, because in seeing that, people would say, why? The questions would come. It's the questions and the peasants engaging in thinking about this that has been obliterated. They used to think about it a lot, so much so they'd pick up shovels and things and beat people over the head, rightly so.
Right.
Okay, so it was a dynamic thing in their life, but it's so subtle. And of course, all the weaponry of modern technology has been brought to bear to keep us distracted, so our attention doesn't stay on that anywhere near long enough to understand the damage that it's causing to us. This phrase that we're in the attention economy is absolutely true. In fact, I've been giving a lot of attention to the idea of attention recently and what it is. And it's like, we know what it is, but so much of your attention is literally hijacked. And this is part of that process.
That's like that. The definition of religion is conscientiousness. It's your attention. What you put it to your attention.
But why is there so many religions? That's the thing.
Because everybody's all distracted by different things. They got so many different gods they're
And-
worshiping, whatever it might be.
And also the dangers of one world religion. That's what they're trying to do. That's the elite or the.
Can't wait, Eric.
You
It's
know-
going to be great, that, isn't it?
Oh, bloody hell! Yeah, I mean,
Count me in.
Well-
Come on. Yeah,
well,
let's mix them all together. That's going to work out well.
Well, that's the problem. Not
Geniuses.
mixing them. I'm now mixing. Okay, so like for instance, we say indoctrinated. You're indoctrinated, Eric. You know what does that mean? Well, it can be either good or bad when you really contemplate what an indoctrination means. It's like you have a doctrine that you follow. You have a core belief in your life that you should treat other people how you'd want to be treated, and don't treat people how you wouldn't want to be treated. That's doctrine. And there's nothing wrong with good indoctrination, but there's a lack of it, because what they do is they teach school children up, little Jimmy can be little Jane and pretend he's a boy, a girl, and really messes with people's beliefs and and the truth.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you there, Patrick, but that exorcist that's on YouTube is, well, I'm really fascinated what he's got to say.
Are you talking
And-
about Chad Rippinger?
Yeah.
Chad?
Wow. And he said that what happens is these entities get in and they can put it into music and all kinds of things like that, and it slowly creeps in. Now, my personal belief is they knew more about these entities years ago than we do, and science, which after all is also a religion, has kind of poo-pooed a lot of facts that people had about these entities. That's my belief anyway. But I don't believe in burning witches and things like that. No, but Six Blade, which is Survival Steve, said another exciting show is the belief in an interesting 2,000-year-old mythology, complete with an invisible saviour figure, still duping the gullible masses. And that's really put the pigeon amongst the cat amongst the pigeons. So
everything's duping the gullible masses. You don't need to just isolate on that. There's so many other things as well. I think there's nothing wrong with mythology either. I mean, it's actually the core system of communication that's held things together. The campfire chat and the embodying of lessons into stories. And then people, he doesn't literally mean that. Well, no, of course not. But you've got to, that's the whole idea. It's to provoke questioning and thoughtfulness. So they're very, very useful things. And they're universal to all people. They're gathering around the fire at the end of the day, or it used to be. We're not allowed to burn coal fires.
Well, it's
anymore,
like
are we? So we
Jesus
don't have those.
talking in parable. It's not, for instance, you take like the story of the wine, the vineyard that the master has, and he has servants who mistreat his servants when he goes to collect the grapes that he deserves as the owner of the vineyard, and they end up killing him. And then it's certain things, like the master who has a servant who owes a large debt and he forgives him, but then that servant goes and tries to collect the lesser debt, and when he doesn't get paid, he chokes out the person who doesn't pay him. That kind of thing. There's parable, there's story, there's meaning behind things that don't necessarily have like a historic, reality, where it's a myth, like you said, a myth or a legend that has a greater meaning of life. Like King Midas could create, just by touching something, gold, but then he touches someone he loves who becomes gold, and it is, it's basically like loving a dead thing. It loses its life. It's like, well, then is it so great to have the Midas touch of gold, turning things to gold, if what you touch, the people around you, when you love money more than people, you lose out on something greater than just the money, what money can buy. There's parables. The hidden meaning in these stories are what you're after.
But Midas, that must have been a bit of awkward when he wanted to go to the loo, hasn't it? But yes.
You'd end up with a golden chamber pot, though, Eric. I don't know.
Yes, you might do. Yes, but what is it? The bloke wants to enlarge a certain part of his gentleman's anatomy. I think I've said that politely. And he goes along to he tries everything, you see, and eventually goes along to one of these soothsayer, magical Indian people. And he says, he said, now what you do, he said, every time you say the word pardon, a part of your anatomy will grow about a quarter of an inch. He said, that's amazing. So he goes, he looks down at the old fella, he goes, pardon, and sure enough, quarter an inch, you see, he's longer. So anyway, he walks out of this fella's consulting office and bumps into an Indian. He said, 1,000 pardons. Sorry.
There's always a sting in the tail with these
yes.
ones. Oh, they're good.
I just want to say that like religion gets used for war. It gets back. There can be purposes where the consciousness of the group ends up being such that they all go to war and they get bloodthirsty, one group against another. That happens. I mean, that's the evil use of religion at that point, where you get one group that just thinks of the other people as subhuman and they're not worth considering whatsoever. And that is evil, and that's wrong, and that's why they use that all the time as a protection mechanism. Like, you want to see us wiped out, so they use that, to create laws against it in order to enrich themselves. Those sorts of things occur. And religion is perverted, no doubt. And I'm not blind to that. So like Steve and Nathan, and it's just I get where you're coming from, but I see a greater good. There is such a thing as a common good. It's just perverted for people to enrich themselves and to wipe out their enemies.
I think it's like, maybe you were saying it earlier. Nathan mentioned it. We are at the effect of government, whether we like it or not, and we're at the effect of religion, whether we like it or not, because it's like a vacuum will be occupied. Nature abhors one. And if you don't pay attention to what you've got, somebody else will. Unfortunately, in our case, they definitely have. See Yuri Bezmenov. We've been studied by other groups, understandably, and if you've got a whole set of beliefs that you've never really examined fully, you are prone to being bent over a barrel at some point, metaphorically. You just are. The unexamined life is not worth living. And,
Socrates.
I wish is that was Socrates. Yeah.
Socrates. And his protege, Plato. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, my mate sorry, I cut across you there. Please carry on. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Your mate.
My mate, this is Mike Mantis, has had a plonker extension. Now his house looks really stupid. I certainly hope that Fred West didn't do those foundations. So there we go.
Who's Fred West?
Oh, Fred West.
Oh, he's a serial killer. Very, very bad piece of work. Yeah, nasty man.
He's a builder.
If he was a man.
And they reckon he buried his victims in the foundations.
Oh, okay.
And now
horrible man.
Yes. So you imagine having an extension built by him. You think, bloody hell, what's under there? Now,
well, that's what they say the mob would do to people: is bury them in a foundation of some construction building.
Well, it's supposed to be one of the mob members holding up one of the carriageways on the M6, I think. But I don't think that's true here, because the inspections that go on before concrete is poured is quite extensive. So I don't think they could put a stick.
Yeah, it's just
in there.
It's legend.
Yeah. It's the same in America, I would have thought. Now, Survival Steve says, why didn't Jesus teach the alchemical great? What's that?
The alchemical great work.
Yeah. Great work, instead of martyring himself for the ungrateful masses who were too arrogant to see that their collective behaviors creating their own suffering.
Well, because he knew he didn't need to worry, because he was resurrected from the dead, because he's God. He created everything. He's there from the beginning of creation. So it's just show of strength.
Why did I get kicked out of assembly for saying I saw Esau sitting on a seesaw? Sorry. Or
I used to say that.
Jesus said to Moses, all Jews shall have long noses except for Aaron, and he'll have a square one. There's another one we used to say. And there's a Jewish kid who used to say it.
Just to let you know, Eric, we've got about...
we have, haven't we?
Yeah, don't worry. The music's not... I've just... As I said, I'm buggering about with things and everything, but we're about to go off air. Actually, let me just hit a button now.
With
There we
Food for
go.
Thought Radio.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, but you can't hear your outro because I've been changing so many different things. So it's about to end, but it's going out on the radio. So
Okay.
There we go.
We had a flatulent tune, didn't we, before? I was thinking, some of our guests might get a bit offended with it. So.
It is. You might want to say to FFT, you've got about 5 seconds. So we're leaving Food for Thought Radio any sort of second now, and that's kind of what's going to happen. So bye, everyone. We'll see you next week. Yeah. Yeah.
This is Mark, the bowler.
And there went Paul.
It's gone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, that's the ad that runs after your outro. I'll sort it out next week. We're changing lots of things, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody out on the radio heard stuff, so they're hearing the ad break. You didn't want to hear it again anyway, did you? So
You were on
I think
with Rhea.
Steve's observation's quite good. And just going back, Patrick, to what you mentioned about parables, they're really powerful, are the parables. They're just tremendous things. And one of the questions he was asked, I think the disciple said to him, why do you talk like that to them? And he said, it's not for them. See, this thing about having all this information is you don't give it to anyone that knocks on your door. You've got to be really careful with this kind of stuff. That's what Socrates ran foul of. He was talking and discussing things with the youth of Greece, and the people, the order from which he was in, felt that it was going way too far. Actually, in other words, delivering really off-the-charts stuff to people who weren't ready for it. And that's one of the reasons why he spoke in parables, is to make the listener be puzzled and to try and work it out, to begin that process of engaging
it was a threat
with
to
your
their
own questioning
authority.
process. Yeah.
It was a threat to authority because it caused them to question authority.
Yes.
And the authorities had him killed, and they actually regretted it after it happened because they then realized that they killed a great man.
Yeah.
And he had the disciples, Plato being one of them, and many others that just carried it on to this day. You know, he's considered a great man because of it. And that's somebody who knew through reasoning that there was a God and would prove it.
Yeah.
Well, Nathan said something interesting. Patrick, I agree with the idea of a common good. I agree with you there, Nathan and Steve, which is why Steve and I discuss objective morality. Yes, I believe in that as well. And the chap who had a cock extension, Alice Gordon says, a female friend of mine did that, Mike. She's got a massive clit. Sorry.
We're not on air.
Yeah, but we're on air on YouTube and
I know that. We're on the censor-free YouTube.
Yes. Well, hang on a minute. We're actually on Holy Land Radio as well.
Yeah, well, you will be. I play the podcast over again. I think I've got it. Because we've got the podcast now, don't we, Paul? We're getting more and more podcasts of people.
We got. There's just loads of bits being bolted on, them falling off, and then being bolted back on again.
Who are the new ones that you added recently that'll have podcasts? Mark.
Let's see. Well, we've got Gary's Farmers Finance Show, which goes out on Monday, is now all the back issues of that are up. There's about 8 or 9.
Gary Glendale.
I'm bigging that up because I'm his co-host all the time. It's a 1-hour blast on a Monday, just before your show, Eric, which is good fun. Miles Johnston has only done one show, but that's up. Guy Anderson's done a couple of shows. They're up. Chat with Kizzy, they're all up. There's about 5 or 6. The first one's an interview with Matt Letitia, the footballer. Unfortunately, it sort of died 10 minutes before the end, but the 50 minutes that are on there are pretty cool. So, because there's been just glitches along the way. Not entirely my fault, by the way, but I'm not trying to blame anybody else, but they're not. So it's just, there's lots of little sort of bells and whistles and little tick boxes and things that have to work, and most of them are beginning to work quite well. What else have we got up there? I've forgotten someone. I'm going to feel bad about it. Mark's shows are all up there now. Mark the Bowler Hat Farmer. They're all up. All his previous shows. There's a new show starting this week. Victoria Rickson starts on Wednesdays at 9 till 11. So that's a late show for a couple of hours. She was a guest with me a few weeks ago. She's the whistleblowing midwife and was the one that put us onto the book about witches and all that kind of stuff. So she might be covering topics like that.
Yeah, and it wasn't what I expected. I expected her to be a raving feminist, feminazi.
No, she's wonderful. She's a mother and everything. She's absolutely wonderful gal, is Victoria, I think. And she's a lot of energy, a lot of followers on Twitter, that kind of stuff. So it's just slowly bolting it on. And we've also, over the weekend, a chap approached Mark called Chris, although I think they're known as the Political Bangers, right? They're part of a musical group, like a banger being a really good song, right? Political Bangers. And this guy, I don't know exactly, he's obviously using AI in some degree and this, that, and the other, but they produce all these songs and we're going to be able to play them. And he can also make songs up in any sort of style to fit any sort of show and this, that, and the other. So a lot of that kind of glue is coming in place. And we want more advertising, which I know has made people groan, but we do. I actually think radio needs breaks almost like every half hour just to keep the sort of audio energy buzzing along. So, but we're going to try and build these breaks in at the top of the hours at least as we go. So it's down to the hosts whether they want to do it or not. We're not going to interfere too much, but we just need to create a sort of, I don't know, slightly energized space. I don't know what you think. I've also been thinking about getting a normal news feed, right? Like these 2 and 3 minute things from some news outlet.
Like the BBC comes on, beep, beep,
yeah.
beep.
I mean, they'd be naff, right? But that's the whole idea. I mean, maybe, I don't know what we do. Maybe it's too naff. You just say, now coming up, bog standard mainstream media news, down to you, dear listeners, to sort the wheat from the chaff. Here we go. It just breaks things up.
Can't we have our own news feed, though? I mean, I think we could.
Well, yeah, if you can put it together. Do you know how much work's involved?
It takes work.
It's massive.
There's a lot of work, but I think if there's somebody willing to volunteer, like an old dear sort of sitting in our house or something like that, doing her knitting, that would be nice if someone could put a news feed together.
News with Doris. I'd be on for any of that.
Hello, I've got my false teeth out at the moment. Or things like my cat got stuck up a tree on Wednesday.
The bathtub report with Aunt Sally.
Yeah, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you do sort of like a 3-minute thing once a day, if we had 2 or 3 people, right, doing a 3-minute thing every day, Monday to Friday or something, and just sending the files in, we could play them. Absolutely.
Well,
it'd be great.
I've been looking at all these prepping sites, you see, and if you believed everything they said, your house would be full to the loft with crap. And you got to, was it the thing, soap is going to become rare, better stock up with soap, shampoo, because it's all based. I mean, this is just like 1973. I mean, I would say the week after next would be having a crap in a hole in the ground because all the water supply stopped, all that's.
Hey, I tell you, there's another good thing that's happened, Eric, that I only just saw just before your show. Mark sent it to me. They've got a store up now for Food Finders Hub, and you can get T-shirts. Except you can't get them in navy blue, which is the only colour I like for T-shirts. I said, I can't get a navy blue one. But there's about 5 different colours, if you like that sort of thing. And it says, fork the system, which I quite like. It's quite good on the sort of patch and fork the system. So it's the start of things. It's good though.
I like it.
It's a bit of a buzz. It's fun. A lot of fun.
Did a Bowl Rat Farmer think that one up? That's the sort of thing he would think up.
I think he may well have done, but I haven't asked him just yet. But he's out and about doing things and pulling people into the space and just generally doing his thing. So this is all pretty
chaps,
cool. Yeah,
I'm going to get going here.
Okay,
I'm going to be going soon too as well.
Same here.
See you soon, Patrick.
But before you go, Patrick, one thing, 6th place says Jesus was killed at Golgotha. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And there as well. The place of the skull, aka the human brain, where a person becomes christened. In other words, when we improve our consciousness, we get to save yourself.
Yeah,
savior ourselves.
Yes.
Well, it's a quest of consciousness and attention. isn't it? I suppose most of us would like to think that we're more conscious and pay attention to the more important things now than we've ever done at any other point in our lives. But you can't say that's not true of everybody in my age group. So anyway, birds of a feather. You stick with the people that are on a similar wavelength and crack on. Good companions and all that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we've had a very good, jolly good gentleman's discussion tonight, and I've really, I this is what I like. I want to bring back, as I say, Edwardian and Victorian discussion where people are great mates. They discuss things that they disagree with, but they're still friends afterwards. And this is what it's all about. So thanks, Patrick.
I enjoyed it a lot, and I liked the questions.
Yeah, it was good,
too.
Patrick.
I enjoyed it too. That was nice.
Yeah, that's good. Terrific. Well, thank you, everybody. And tomorrow night we've got Nathan Allenby on, and
has he sorted his audio out yet?
I bloody well hope so. With his sorted out audio,
I'm going to get on his case tomorrow. What you need to tell him to do, he made a phone call to me, and he was sat down in his lounge with his phone, and he sounded brilliant. And I said, "What? Why don't you sound this good when you come on the shows?" He's sort of shouting into a laptop mic in an echoey room, and it's really bloody difficult to hear what he says.
Call him on the phone.
Think. Yeah, so I'll speak to Eric. If you speak to me tomorrow beforehand, I think I might be able to patch him through in some particular way. All right?
Okay.
Because if he sounds good, he'll make a much bigger impact.
Oh, yeah.
It would. Be great.
It's pretty good. And now, on Thursday, what have you got any guests on? What guests you got on? Have you worked that out yet? Or
no, I ain't got my finger out. I've got it down on my to-do list to actually sort all that out on Fridays. But, of course, I've... Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and most of today I've been full.
I like the format of the last show, Paul, where it was 1-on-1 for each hour. That was cool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so if we do that, Eric, I'll probably have you on for the first hour, and then I've got to find 2 victims for hours 2 and 3 and see what we can do. So,
well, I'll tell you
Miles, I'd like to have on at least once a month or something, although he's doing his show on Tuesday nights, but... and I was talking about it today with Ria, because you remember when he was, I don't know if you caught it, Eric, because I know you were present in the second hour. He was talking about this transmitter that they built in County Monaghan. I think
that's it. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
1.2 million watts. I got interrogated about it. It can't be that
I want
big.
to talk
well,
to
that's
this
what he
guy
said.
too.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. No. He knows his stuff. 1.2 million off the charts.
I'm with Ria on that. It wasn't 2 million watts.
He's Irish. Maybe he stretched things a little bit. I'm only repeating what he said. I like Miles a lot. He's very energized, and he's got a great.
Yeah, I want to talk.
He's got a great face for radio. Yeah, no, and he's really into the whole radio thing.
He's good.
He was great.
I'll tell you someone else. I don't know if he's still alive, but many years ago I did an interview with, I think it was Michael Roll, the scientific evidence for life after death. The scientific evidence, and boy, doesn't he know his stuff. A fascinating interview I had. I mean, he was getting on a bit then. I don't know if he's still around with us now. I hope he is. I'd like to get him on again because he said there's a lot of science that has just been completely pushed out of the way because apparently there is scientific evidence and he's proved it for life after death. So there we go.
Yeah.
Let's do it on do you remember that on Monty Python? We have people sitting around like this. Now we're going to speak to the late Reverend so and so. Is there life after death? No, there's nothing saying. You say yes. And now we go. As a end credits go up, you see the blokes in the white coats carrying the bodies out. Sorry, that's sort of Python humour.
Yeah, all good stuff.
Hang on. And Mark Mantis says you should get Dom Walterson on from the Sheep Farm podcast. Yes.
Paul, someone else you should get on is Rhea. Mm-hmm. You've been on her show so many times.
She won't come on.
Yes, come on.
Oh, well, I think I've got to talk to her tomorrow and see if she can come on. Actually, I wonder if she'd enjoy being on with Miles and they can have a 1.2 million watt argument. That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be really good. I could just sit back. I'm having a cup of tea now. You get at it.
They would get on well.
Now, better clear this up. Aunt Sally, when Paul talks about Miles, he's not talking about Miles Fleetwood. He's talking about another Miles. Yes, there's another Miles on there. Because trying to get Miles onto the show, I think you probably, I don't know, I think you'd probably be easier to get an elephant on a hang glider, you know. I mean, it's just, I would like him to come onto the show, but he's always busy in that, But anyway,
well, get going with the breakfast show. You'll get him when he's just rocking out of bed and all that kind of stuff. That's what we need. We need some more shows throughout the day and stuff. Anyway, all coming.
Now, hang on.
I can see it. There's a comment here from between Paul and Miles. Could they sort a John Irwin interview? Maybe. My contact with John was in town not this weekend, last one. And I was talking to Richard. In fact, I had him lined up to be a guest, but I won't talk about it. It's logistically, things are never quite that smooth. And he showed me a photo of John. John's 88 now. I didn't realize he was that old. I thought it was early 80s, but he's 88. He looked pretty good, but Richard didn't seem to indicate that he'd be kind of on for that kind of thing at the moment. I'm doing inquiries, but you're just going to have to be patient with that one. There's no definite. I know Miles knows him because Miles did interviews with him, and he mentioned him on Tuesday night just gone. And I was keen to sort of get on the broadcast with him at that point. I thought, no, I'm getting behind a microphone all the time. But John would be a fascinating guest, an amazing guy. So I'll see what I can do, but it won't be this Thursday. I'll have to give him fair warning, and I'll have to do some sort of sound tests to make sure we can get him sounding good and bring him in a good way. But it would be pretty riveting stuff. He's quite an amazing guy.
And also, hopefully, was Ben coming up. That's Ben. I always get his surname wrong. Emlyn. Yeah, he's coming on soon.
Like Ben, he's very good.
He's coming on in June. I'm hoping to also get who else? Helen, and we're going to be talking about entities as well, and with a special guest as well. So there's quite a few guests in the pipeline, but this I don't know what it is. May and June is very short for getting guests on. I don't know quite what it is. Everybody seems to be busy or going on holiday or whatever it is.
Sun's come out, Eric.
The sun's come out.
Going,
yes.
Weather.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
and do you realise that we've only just put the clocks doodad, haven't we, in April, and in another 5 weeks' time or something, was it 6 weeks' time? It's the longest day, and I'm going, this can't be right. This is ridiculous. It's just
so
mad.
It throws me off. This whole daylight savings time thing is ridiculous. It's like you guys are either 6 or 5 hours ahead, and it confuses it. It just makes it more difficult.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. We need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just getting to know more and more people coming out of my sort of hibernation in the radio shed for the last 10 years or so. So and Mark knows a lot of. We're building a big sort of organisational Rolodex anyway. I love the word Rolodex, even though nobody uses them anymore.
Rolodex.
Our younger listeners don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, they're great. Yeah, so there's a lot of... I mean, you keep mentioning names, Eric, and I'm going, who's that? And then I remember, and it jogs my memory, and I go, yeah. So what we need a booking agent. I want a booking.
Yes.
I want someone to do all that. Call me up. I've got these people booked for Thursday. Thank you very much. That's great. That's what we want. And then want somebody else to do a sound check with them before the show. And then I just rock up in my pajamas and my dressing gown with my pipe. And we sit down and we have a nice cup of cocoa. And off we go.
That's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
All right,
let's
fellas.
do it with a bit of style.
Anyway,
have a good
very
night.
much, everyone.
See you, Patrick.
Thank
Bye
you,
for now.
Patrick. Thank you, Paul. And as I say, join us tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Same time, same place, different day. And remember, please put the thumbs up, subscribe, tell others, or consider subscribing. It's free of charge. And whatever happens, have a bloody good laugh and good night.